Guys, what's going on? Today's project, we're going to install a fifth wheel wiring kit in the bed of this pickup truck. So what we'll have when we're done here is somewhere after the wheel well on the driver's side, we'll have this outlet for the 7-pin connector from the fifth wheel, so the fifth wheel connection doesn't have to drape over the tailgate to plug into the spot on the bumper. So this fifth wheel connection is going to go in the bed of a Ram 3500. It's a 2009. And what we've got here is a endurance professional grade fifth wheel wiring kit by Hopkins Towing Solutions. Part number for the Dodges 42137. What's in the box is the connection in the bed, wiring harness, and some fasteners and zip ties. Not a requirement, but I'd recommend you pull your ball mount and ball out of your receiver to avoid smacking your head on this thing while you're crawling in and out from under the truck. First thing you need to do is access the back of your 7-pin connector that's on your bumper. So jump into the truck. So there it is there. So I need to disconnect that harness. Your truck may differ, but on this truck I'm able to remove these fasteners and pull the harness through, so it'll be easier to access and work on. If not, you'll have to disconnect from the back. I'm going to remove these 4 fasteners. They're 4 T25 Torx machine screws. Now that I have those off, I'll pull this through so I have access to the harness plug. Now that I have this off the truck, I'm just going to clean this up a little bit so it's easier to connect and disconnect. Okay, now we'll take this factory harness, pop it back through the hole. Then we need to take this new harness, this end, which has the exact same locking connectors on it, and from the back of the truck, push that up through the bumper. Now we'll take the factory 7-pin connector that I've cleaned up, plug it into this new harness, lock down that catch, and then I can reinstall this. I'll reinstall these 4 Torx 25 screws. All right, now we need to jump under the truck. So what I'm going to look for when I'm under the truck is that there's no obstructions or electrical wires in behind the spot where I want to mount this new fifth wheel connector. So my intent is to mount it here. So we're just going to jump under the truck and have a look. All right, so I'm under the truck here looking. You can see the back edge of the wheel well, and there does not seem to be any wires or anything in the way of me drilling a hole, so I'm good to go. I'm going to go up and make a mark, and we need to drill a hole that's a 2 1/8 inch wide. It's the mounting face of this 7-pin connector that's going to go in the bed, and cut out a piece of cardboard to place it approximately where I want it to be, to make sure I'm happy before I drill a hole. So now that I have it where I want it, I'm going to make a mark and drill a small hole, have a look once again under the truck to make sure we're good to go, and then go ahead and drill the 2 1/8 inch wide hole. Okay, you've seen I marked the center, so now I'm going to drill a hole about 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch diameter, and then have a look under the truck. Okay, here's a look under the truck. I've left the drill bit sticking through the hole, so you can see shouldn't have any issues. I might have to drill the wider hole, might just catch a little bit of the wheel well, but that shouldn't be a big problem. So we'll jump back up in the bed of the truck and drill the hole. We're back in the bed of the truck. The instructions call for a 2 1/8 inch hole saw to cut the hole. I've only got a 2 inch or a 2 1/4, so I'm going to cut it 2 inches, and then I'll use the file as necessary to make room for the receptacle. Before you get started with drilling the hole, make sure you have safety glasses on. Extremely important. Okay, I'm going to clean up these edges with a file, and I'm probably going to have to file a little notch at the top in order to get it in, since I had a hole saw one size smaller than it was calling for. I've cleaned up the edges of the hole with the file, and I've also taken some rust paint and painted the bare metal edges, and I'm also going to soak it with some rust prevention spray before I install the receptacle. So the 2 inch hole did not require any filing at all. It fits in no problem at all. So a note, 2 inch hole saw is just fine. Before you make any of your electrical connections, so on all 3 points on the harness, you'll need to take this dielectric grease and apply it to the electrical connectors, preferably on the male side. If you can't get at it, then on the female side. Into the truck here now, we need to take this factory 7-pin harness that was connected to the receptacle originally, get some dielectric grease on it, and then plug it into the new harness. You push this catch down once you've made the connection. Okay, now what we need to do is to take this new harness and route it up to the hole that you drilled in the bed of the truck. So I'm going to try to follow this factory harness, and I'll use some of the zip ties that were also provided with the kit to zip tie to this harness, and then I'll make my way up to the hole that we just drilled. I've got the cable routed where I want it. I can't pull this connector right through the hole. That's likely because I wasn't able to drill out to 2 1/8 as the instructions had indicated, but no problem. I'm going to push that back out of my way, and I'm just going to mount this. There's 4 self-tapping screws that come with the kit, and then I'll make the connection from the back. Before I do, though, I'm going to pull that out and put a coating of dielectric grease on these contacts. Grease on the back of this receptacle, and now I'm going to spray some rust proofing on this hole. And now we're ready to mount this receptacle, and then I'll make the connection from the back afterwards. Okay, the screws that come with the kit are 1/4-inch hex head self-tappers. So I'll put this about where I want it, fairly level. Now with that mounted, we're good to make the connection at the back. All right, here's a shot of the back of the receptacle here now. So I'm just going to make this connection. Okay, I've made the connection. Make sure it's fully seated before you move on to the next step. You'll note here that there's enough wire loom in the kit to mount that receptacle at the front of the truck, front of the bed. I opted to mount it in the rear of the bed, so I've looped this here together with a bunch of zip ties and attached it to a couple of points on the truck. And the remainder of the harness, I followed the existing harness back to the hitch. The last thing we need to do is make a ground connection on the truck. After having a look around here, I think I'll make the ground connection here at that fastener up here at the end of my finger. I've made my ground connection here. This was a 10mm bolt. So just back that out, and the connector that was on the end of that wire fit in there, no problem at all. And then tighten her back up. So the last thing we need to do is just jump back in the back of the truck with a test light to make sure everything's working fine. Okay, now I'm going to test my blinkers. So I put my ground to pin number 1, my positive to pin number 5, middle left, and the power should blink on and off, which it does. I leave my ground on pin number 1, and middle right, pin number 6. For the right side, should get the same thing. Okay, we're good to go there. So you test your signal lights, it's the same signal that'll be transmitted for your brake lights. With the key in the on position, pin number 4, which is top right, should give us 12 volts. So that's the pin that charges your, provides a 12 volt charge to your trailer. So, pin number 1 with a negative on the bottom left and top right. And I've got 12 volts, so that's good. We've got good charging for the trailer. Now we'll test our brake lights. Okay, so now testing the brake lights. Pin number 1, bottom left with the negative, and either middle left or middle right is the positive. Okay, hit the brakes, please. Okay, we're good. Thanks. Now, the last thing that we're going to check is the trailer brakes. So that's pin number 1, bottom left for the ground, and pin number 2, bottom right for the positive. And we've got 12.5 volts there. Okay, the last pin I'm going to check is the reverse, which is pin number 7, the middle pin. So to the ground, bottom left, and to the middle with a positive. Reverse, please. And we got about 12 volts here. We're good. Well, that's it for installation of this 5th wheel wiring kit on this 2009 Dodge Ram. Thanks for watching.